For me, it is about the law and people.
That is not a legal defense, let me tell you.
And how people can resolve and better themselves.
Justice with passion.
I knew I was going to go into law because I always defended everybody. I was always the one who found a solution and tried to resolve the problem by having people talk to each other.
Justice with truth.
So I'm giving you one more chance to tell me the truth.
This is Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Jeremy Hansen is suing Lane Gomez in the amount of $700. Mr. Hansen claims Mr. Gomez damaged his phone after he confronted the defendant for being aggressive towards a woman. Mr. Gomez claims Mr. Hansen was violating his privacy rights and says there is no way he pushed the plaintiff hard enough to drop his phone.
Mr. Hansen, you are suing the defendant because you claim he broke your phone?
Correct.
How did that happen?
So the night started around 8 o'clock for me and my friend Jacob. You know, we like to go out, experience new restaurants, bars, etc. We're out, we're having a good time. The night was smoothly around 8 o'clock. That's when we, got out. We had a few drinks. We decided to cut the night a little early. We left around 1 a.m. and that's when I seen Mr. Gomez outside arguing with his girlfriend, fiance or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like the situation was escalating to where it would have been quite abusive. So,
how do you know? How do you know?
Well, he was yelling. He kind of yanked her. So I kind of...
So you must have been staring for a long time?
Yes, I overheard them arguing for about 5 minutes.
So you were sitting there watching them for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And you started getting concerned because you thought it could have been abusive?
Yes, ma'am.
So he grabbed her. What else did he do?
I just saw him grab her, yank her, and that's when I sort of walked over. I noticed my friend Jacob. He was sitting down. He was content, so I decided to kind of play a hero. So
You decided to kind of play a hero. What does that mean?
I didn't want her to get hurt. I didn't want her to be abused or anything.
Did you see him hit her?
I just saw him yank her very aggressively.
Did you see anything else after that?
I seen her crying, yes.
Did you call maybe the bouncer from the club where you guys were at?
No, I didn't call anyone.
Police?
I actually just pulled out my phone and started recording. I walked over.
So that's your answer? If you see somebody in jeopardy or in danger, you're not going to call authorities, you're not going to call for help, you're just going to pull out your phone and start taping?
I figured I didn't have to call authority. Maybe we could have talked about it and,
How
I could have...
are you going to talk about it if you're filming him? What if it were a situation like that and he pulled out a gun and shot her? Can you imagine if you would have called the cops, that would have stopped?
Yes.
Why worry about taping them first?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I taped it just so I could have evidence, so I could show him, you don't treat women like this. Mr. Gomez.
Okay, and you didn't know who he was?
No, I didn't know who he was until...
So your intention of taping it was to tape it so you could later tell Mr. Gomez, look what you did and you shouldn't treat the women this way?
Correct.
Okay. So then walk me through. So what happened? You're taping them?
So I was taping them, and then, so he notices I was taping, so he kind of asked me to back off or whatever.
How did he ask you to back off?
He put his hand out forward like that, and I tried to get another angle, and that's when he pushed me, and my phone fell.
How many times did you tell him to stop taping you?
I told him a couple times. See, look, what had happened, he was staring for a long time. So I tried to ignore him because he was staring. He was just, a lot of people stare when people are arguing. So I just focused with my girlfriend because we were having this argument. And when I grab her, to just talk to her, he comes up and starts saying stuff like... Did you grab her? I grab her arm. I grab her arm just to...
Did you grab her aggressively like Mr. Hansen says?
No. Everything aggressive, it wasn't even aggressive. It was just pulling her because she was walking away. Okay. And so I grab her to...
Why were you guys arguing? Were you intoxicated, both of you?
No, I had some drinks, but she was drunk. She would have more drinks than I did.
Okay.
So, but...
Is that why you guys were fighting?
No. We were fighting because she was talking to a guy at the bar.
I see.
While I was with some friends that I had saw her there. And I come back and see her talking, but I was like, well, maybe she'll shoo him away or something like that. I go back talking to my friends, come back, and she's still talking to him. So that's when I confront her, tell her, hey, what are you doing with this guy? So we go out to talk about this. And he's there.
Were you guys yelling at each other? Why don't you stand up, Miss Bishop? Were you guys yelling at each other?
We're arguing. We weren't yelling. It escalated over a comment that she made of my parents, things, their separation and stuff like that I don't like talking about. That it really, that gets me emotional.
So how old are you guys?
21.
21. Okay, so you're young. So you've been dating for a while?
About a year now.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys had big arguments like this before?
No, this wasn't even a big fight, Your Honor.
It wasn't?
It was just, you know, like he had said, he had walked away to go talk to his friends, and a guy approached me at the bar. And, you know, I'm a friendly person, so I was just talking to him. And, you know, he was being a little bit jealous. So he came over, asked me what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I'm just talking to the guy I met. And he asked me, can we go outside and talk? And I admit I was drunk, and I did start throwing personal shots out at him, which I later apologized. However, I don't feel that it was any of his business to get involved.
Okay.
Coming up on Justice for All.
Just because I have to ask, because it was raised, you don't hit your girlfriend?
And later.
That door is going to need to be replaced. That kind of damage happens when you're having a party and someone is falling over and they end up falling on a door.
Closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-687. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. We're back with the case of Jeremy Hansen, who is suing Lane Gomez for property damage.
Just because I have to ask, because it was raised, you don't hit your girlfriend?
No. No.
Has he ever abused you in any way?
Never. He's never put any type of harm.
Okay. And so what happened this night? Were you guys just both drinking and you were drunk? You admit that you were drunk,
yes,
and you got a little jealous?
Yeah, I got jealous. Well, she was
Were you guys
drunk.
being really loud? Because clearly Mr. Hansen was attracted to that.
It escalated when she said about my parents. So that's when I started kind of getting upset. But then I realized, well, she's drunk. I started to understand that.
So you scared yourself down.
So that's when I went to grab her, bring her back in, because she was walking away upset. So I pulled her in, like, hey, come here. That's when he comes in with his phone in my face, just.
How far away was he from you when he was?
He was pretty close. He was up here, just in my, and I don't like that. It's in my personal space. It's none of his business. And he was just right here. That's when I asked him, back off, please. I don't like being videotaped. This is none of your business. And he's still in my face with the phone. So that's when I shoved him. I didn't really push him hard enough for him to drop his phone and break it. So that, I don't know where he's getting the... Do
you remember any of this, Ms. Bishop?
Yes, I remember.
Okay, and what was Mr. Hansen doing?
He was like invading our personal space. Like he was just had the camera on his face recording, like, hey, I'm recording you guys. And like he's telling like, hey, get out my face, like, you know, leave me alone. This has nothing to do with you. And I agree, it was none of his business. It was a simple fight. Couples, we fight all the, like, you know, little petty fights all the time. And I didn't feel threatened, that harmed at all. He didn't abuse me.
And what happened after the fact? After you pushed him?
Shortly after the police showed up.
Okay.
And so we kind of just gave a statement, and I explained to the officer, like, you know, it was not that big of a deal. I don't feel any harm or threatened. He didn't put his hands on me. Everything was just fine. It was just this guy here. I think he was drunk because the way he was in his face with the camera, it was just like, why are you doing that? It's not even your issue. I understand your concern because, you know, abuse is a big deal, but I'm telling you I'm fine, so you can leave us alone.
And what did the police do?
After that, they just took our statement, and then they spoke with him, and then shortly after they left.
And then, so Mr. Hansen, so how close were you to Mr. Gomez and Ms. Bishop?
I definitely wasn't as close as he says I was.
Really? Do you have your phone with you?
Yes, I do have my phone with me.
So then, how were you taping them? Show me how you were taping them.
Well, this is my phone, the phone that he broke.
Okay.
So I was recording them. I was at least 3 feet away.
Okay, so you used Renard. So how far, you were that far away? You were that far away? Okay, so it's right there, you were right there?
I was about a little bit closer to about this square right here.
You can move up.
And right I was recording to like right here.
Okay, Renard, is that Renard?
And you had the camera. You were in his face.
Excuse me.
That's not close. I mean, everybody has a space needs to be arm distance. So if he's like arm distance, that's okay. But if he's way up in here, everybody has space. He's invading that space.
So that's what you claimed. That's how close you were.
Yes, I was.
You didn't get any closer to them?
No, ma'am.
At all?
No, ma'am. He pushed his hand out and then he stepped forward to me and pushed me.
All right. Mr. Gomez, can you grab the phone, please, Renard? Mr. Gomez, can you show Renard how close he was to you?
He was about this distance. Because when he had his phone in my face, videotaping, that's when I asked him, please, back
so
off.
How close? Renard is not going to do anything to you. Was he that close to you?
He was like right here. Because that's when he's like, oh, stop grabbing her.
So how close is that, Renard?
That's invading the space.
Yeah.
He should have been at least arm distance from here. But if he's way like in his face, that's invading his space.
So how much did you have to drink, Mr. Hansen?
I had a few drinks, maybe 4 beers.
Okay, so when he told you to back off, why didn't you?
He got a little aggressive with me, and it kind of like struck a nerve to where
if somebody were videotaping you this close, would you be bothered by that?
Yes, I would, but then again, I would walk away.
See, because here's the thing, Mr. Hansen, you're not a paparazzi, so I'm going to kind of compare this to a paparazzi case. But you're not. But if you were, you have to be within a reasonable space where you are not invading their privacy, where you're not invading their personal space. It's a public place, so we know anybody can tape anything that they want to. But when you're this close to somebody and where they don't even have room to stretch out their arm, then that's when you got a problem. I mean, could it be an assault? Maybe, and you don't even have to touch somebody to have an assault. But when you're that close to somebody, you're invading my space.
Yes.
You are doing an unlawful presence that I don't want you to be in my business. So, were you a good Samaritan or were you just a busybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Next time, mind your own business. Not everything needs to be videotaped. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And if she were really in danger and you saw things that were not appropriate, you should have stayed where you were, continue videotaping, and call the police.
Yeah.
Okay? They're the ones to handle it, not you. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what we need. We need people to be vigilant and to tape, but to take, not to take everything in their own hands, but to call the authorities, okay? So based on the evidence, I will deny your claim, Mr. Hansen, of $700, and I'll rule in favor of the defendant.
All rise.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
You know, you guys broke my phone, and I was just trying to be a good person and help you guys out.
We were fine. Just the next time, mind your own business.
Coming up on Justice for All.
That door is going to need to be replaced. That kind of damage happens when you're having a party and someone is falling over and they end up falling on a door.
Closed captioning provided by... You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Jeanette Roberts is suing Rachel Beret in the amount of $1,600. Ms. Roberts claims Ms. Beret is the sole cause of her losing a security deposit. Ms. Beret claims she's not responsible for the loss of the security deposit because she tried everything to keep the place clean.
I understand the plaintiff is your aunt, is that correct?
Yes.
And she co-signed a lease for you?
Yes.
And you didn't get your security deposit back?
No.
Why didn't you get your security deposit back?
There was damage to a door in my apartment, which my landlord says I'm responsible for, so he kept the entire deposit.
Okay. And how did the door get damaged?
Well, it was already having problems, and I emailed him twice and told him that it was staying jammed, and I asked him to fix it, and I never heard back. And then I called him, and he said it wasn't a big issue. If there were any additional problems, to let him know. So I just dealt with it. I had to open it up, and I would have to push up against it to get it to budge, and eventually it broke.
Okay. Do you have any emails or any evidence of that so I can take that into consideration?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Roberts, you are her aunt.
That is correct, Your Honor,
and
yes.
you co-signed the apartment lease for her?
I did, yes.
Okay. And what happened?
Rachel, and the landlord could attest to this, Rachel was a good tenant for probably the first maybe 9 to 10 months of the time that she spent at that new apartment. But then as she was working at her banking job, she then met her boyfriend, who would then bring over his friends, and they would begin to have parties. And these parties would last all through the night. They'd have loud music. The neighbors were complaining. And the landlord got complaints from the neighbors continuously, but Rachel would maybe back off for a little bit, then she would kind of go back into, well, I can have guests overnight. There was even mention of a dog that would be brought into the apartment, which violated the terms of her rental agreement.
Coming up.
That door is going to need to be replaced. That kind of damage happens when you're having a party and someone is falling over and they end up falling on a door.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. We're back with the case of Jeanette Roberts, who is suing Rachel Beret for $1,600.
Mr. Tate, can you stand up and tell me about some of the things that happened? Why don't you first tell me about the door that Ms. Burr says that's why you did not refund the security deposit?
Good morning, Your Honor. If you take a look at the picture that's on there, just to kind of go off the statement that she said that she had to push the door. If you look at that picture, that damage, I mean, you look at the defendant and she is maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. And if you look at that door, it doesn't seem like somebody just kind of pushed on a little bit. That's very extensive damage. That door is going to need to be replaced. And this is not my first rodeo. I've managed many properties, and that kind of damage happens when you're having a party and someone is falling over and they end up falling on a door.
So one of the tenants said that I've been a resident of this apartment complex for 10 years and I've never ever experienced a neighbor as disruptive as this young lady in apartment 113. There's loud music almost every night, not to mention there's people going in and out from the apartment at all hours of the night. I don't feel at home in my unit. Please handle the situation. Okay. All right, so then when I understand that you kicked her out, you evicted her?
That's right.
Okay. And you didn't return the security deposit for all these reasons. Ms. Roberts, when you asked Ms. Burr to reimburse you for the security deposit, what was your answer?
I didn't have the money to pay for it.
Okay. Is that what she said?
No, she felt that it was not her responsibility to pay for it. That's what she told me. She said, you loan the money to me, and you did that out of the goodness of your heart, basically her words. I shouldn't have to repay you.
Judge Perez's verdict when Justice for All returns. Promotional consideration provided by.
It's pretty clear that the security deposit was kept for obvious reasons. Your aunt let you borrow this money. She was a co-signer. She has every right to look at you for that money because you two had a contract as co-signers, and she has every right to look for you to reimburse that. So you're going to have to reimburse her $1,600. I hope you're working. I hope you find a way to pay her back very quickly, okay? So based on the evidence, I will rule in favor of the plaintiff for $1,600.
All rise.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $1,600.
I still don't think the damage is my fault, but like Judge Perez says, I'll find a way to pay you back.
Rachel, you really need to take responsibility of your life. I hope this has taught you a very valuable life lesson.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.